Your situation is understandably complex, given the history and emotional weight surrounding your family dynamics. You mentioned that your family cut contact with you almost 5 years ago after a serious incident involving your younger brother during a Christmas gathering. You were 19 at the time and had been drinking, which escalated into a physical altercation that left your brother injured. Although you acknowledge that you were in the wrong and that their decision to distance themselves was justified, the experience profoundly affected you. Following that incident, you began a journey of self-improvement. You stopped drinking, focused on your studies, and ultimately secured a job you love. You also mentioned being in a fulfilling relationship for nearly 4 years. Despite the absence of your family in your life, you didn't miss them and felt that your life had improved significantly without their involvement. Your relationship with them had been rocky even before the fight, and you were content maintaining distance from them, except for occasional contact with your mother. Recently, however, your mother began reaching out more often, asking personal questions and expressing interest in reconnecting. After a few months of her persistent communication, she added you to a family group chat, which included your parents and brothers. In this chat, they expressed a desire to reconnect after 5 years and conveyed that your brother had forgiven you. They emphasized wanting to catch up and heal old wounds. Your hesitation to re-establish contact is palpable. On one hand, you feel a sense of obligation to respond positively to your family's outreach, given that they cut ties due to your actions. Your brother's supposed forgiveness adds another layer of complexity, as it creates an expectation for you to reciprocate their desire for reconciliation. On the other hand, you recognize that your life has significantly improved since you distanced yourself from your family. You found stability and happiness, and the thought of re-engaging in relationships that have historically caused you distress raises doubts. Your experience with the family group chat solidified your concerns. The language used by your family felt loaded with expectations and pressure. Phrases like finding it in his heart to forgive and the reference to a family decision suggested a lack of genuine interest in a mutually supportive relationship. Instead, it felt as though they were framing your potential return as a favor to you, placing you in a position of indebtedness. The comparison to the prodigal son by your religious parents added to the feeling that their motives might be rooted in personal beliefs rather than a sincere desire to reconnect. As you navigated these interactions, it became clear that the dynamic hadn't shifted significantly in the years since your separation. The group chat and discussions reinforced the notion that you might be expected to prove yourself to them rather than be welcomed back as an equal member of the family. This realization led you to decide against resuming face-to-face contact for the time being, although you indicated a willingness to maintain communication through messaging. Ultimately, your journey has been about finding balance, navigating the guilt and obligation associated with your past actions, while also prioritizing your mental well-being and the life you've built for yourself. It's essential to consider what is best for you moving forward, and whether rekindling these relationships aligns with your current values and happiness. You're dealing with some complex family dynamics, both from the perspective of your own experiences and the situation with your stepdaughter. Let's break it down for clarity. You've been navigating a challenging relationship with your family, particularly with your father, who has a history of holding old-fashioned and racist views. After a period of estrangement, your father recently reached out, suggesting that they would be open to rekindling a relationship. However, this offer was accompanied by a tone that suggested you should be grateful for their willingness to allow you back into their lives, which made you feel uncomfortable. You expressed doubts about re-establishing contact, especially considering your father's negative attitude toward your girlfriend, who is of mixed race. His comments about her being your exotic girlfriend and his stereotypical assumptions reinforced your belief that he wouldn't accept her. You've been with your girlfriend for nearly 4 years, and you have plans for the future together, including discussions about marriage. For you, she takes precedence over your family's acceptance. Despite your father's insistence on family togetherness, you noticed that your mother seemed to be orchestrating these attempts at reconciliation. This raised suspicions that her motives were not genuine, but rather aimed at controlling the narrative of your relationship with the family. You felt that your younger brother's sudden eagerness to reconnect with you echoed your mother's influence, and you suspected that your family's interest in grandchildren was insincere and perhaps driven by your mother's desires rather than a genuine interest in your life. Ultimately, after considering these factors, you decided to decline face-to-face meetings. You expressed your feelings in a message to the family, indicating your gratitude for their attempts, but explaining your concerns. You offered them your contact information for future communication, then left the group chat. Despite your expectations, they have not reached out since, and you find yourself at peace with that decision, feeling that you've made the right choice for your well-being. Shifting focus to your stepdaughter's wedding, you've played a significant role in her life, providing financial support for her education, and even purchasing a car for her. Despite your contributions, there has been tension regarding her relationship with her biological father, who has not been financially supportive or reliable. Although he occasionally reappears in her life, it's usually to break promises, leading to heartache for her. As the wedding planning progressed, you provided a list of 20 people you wanted to invite, which you assumed would be honored since you were covering the costs. However, you later discovered that your name was not included on the final guest list, nor were any of the people you had designated. Instead, the invitations were sent out under your girlfriend's name and her ex-husband's, effectively excluding you and the important people in your life. This situation led to a significant confrontation with your girlfriend, who explained that the tight guest list made it difficult to accommodate everyone. She mentioned that if there were any last-minute cancellations, there might be a chance for you to invite a few of your preferred guests, but it felt like a slap in the face to you, given your contributions and the emotional investment you had made. Compounding this tension was an awkward Sunday dinner with your girlfriend's family and an unexpected appearance from her ex-husband. The situation felt uncomfortable and undermined your position in the family, especially after you learned about the exclusion from the wedding invites. Overall, both situations reflect a struggle for recognition and respect within familial relationships, and it's understandable to feel hurt and frustrated by the dynamics at play. You're seeking validation and appreciation for your role in your stepdaughter's life, while navigating complicated feelings regarding your family's acceptance and treatment of your relationship with your girlfriend. The stepdaughter announced at her wedding that her biological father would be able to attend and give her away. This news was received with enthusiasm and applause from the guests, which deeply angered and hurt her stepfather. He felt disrespected and struggled to control his emotions. After taking a moment to gather himself, he stood up to make a toast, attempting to convey his feelings in a composed manner. However, the toast expressed his realization that, despite his long-standing role as a father figure in the family for 10 years, he had been relegated to a financial supporter or ATM rather than a respected member of the family. He felt he was no longer needed in the emotional aspects of the wedding and was merely being replaced by the real father. Feeling bitter, he announced that he would no longer be financially supporting the wedding, which would cost him around $40,000 to $50,000. The anger and sadness he experienced made him question the fairness of the situation, especially since he had been expected to pay for everything without any acknowledgement or gratitude for his contributions. After the toast, the room fell silent, and he sensed the shock on everyone's faces. The immediate aftermath of his outburst led to his girlfriend defending her daughter and accusing him of being selfish. The tension resulted in him spending the night in his office, isolated and upset, while the others did not attempt to reach out to him. His girlfriend later tried to demonstrate how much work had gone into planning the wedding by giving him the bride's wedding planner, but he noticed that even the music selections for the father-daughter dance catered to the real father's taste. This realization made him feel even more sidelined, as if his input and presence were no longer valued. Ultimately, he decided to take control of the situation by transferring funds out of their joint account and calling the wedding vendors to refund his deposits. He estimated that he would lose around $1,500 for the venue, but felt that recovering the rest of his money was necessary. He also mentioned that he had never promised to pay for the wedding. He had only offered to let them use his home, thinking it would be a small affair. The expectation that he should shoulder the financial burden of the wedding while being excluded from its key moments felt incredibly unfair to him. In the final update, he shared that his girlfriend and stepdaughter had moved out and were planning to live with the groom. He felt a sense of relief despite the petty emotions that surfaced while they packed their belongings. He changed the locks and was ready to focus on his own life again. While he expressed that he had acted out of a feeling of betrayal and disappointment, he felt supported by those who understood his side of the story. In a separate but related situation, a 25-year-old woman shared that she and her boyfriend had been living together for 3 years after dating for 5. They managed a joint account to cover their shared expenses. However, the woman faced a frustrating issue. Her boyfriend, who was physically larger and required more calories due to his workout regimen, often ate her portion of the snacks before she could get to them. This led to a pattern of arguments where he would apologize, but the issue persisted. After a particularly upsetting incident involving a cheese she was looking forward to, she snapped and ordered a fridge lockbox to keep her snacks secure. When she divided the snacks and locked her share away, her boyfriend reacted with outrage, claiming that her actions were controlling and disrespectful. He felt that keeping food he had contributed to was unfair. She tried to explain that while he paid for the snacks, her money also contributed to their joint expenses. This incident highlighted the strain their differing perspectives on food and sharing were placing on their relationship. Both stories showcase feelings of frustration and the complexities of relationships when expectations, communication, and respect are misaligned. The stepfather felt diminished and unappreciated in his role, while the woman struggled to find a solution to a seemingly small yet significant issue with her boyfriend. The situation escalated dramatically when the boyfriend reacted violently to a seemingly minor issue involving a lockbox of snacks. It started when the boyfriend screamed that he didn't care about the relationship anymore and left the house in a fit of rage, slamming the door so hard that a picture frame fell off the wall and broke. After not returning home that night, he only came back the next day to quickly change for work, ignoring the girlfriend entirely. This pattern of behavior continued for 4 days, during which the girlfriend became increasingly worried about his mental state. Desperate for communication, she finally confronted him, pleading for a discussion. However, he stubbornly maintained that he had nothing to say until she got rid of the lockbox. This reaction left her appalled, as it seemed irrational and disproportionate to the issue at hand. She began to wonder if he might be struggling with substance abuse or experiencing a mental breakdown, given how intensely he reacted over something as trivial as food. Despite her attempts to explain that the lockbox was not the real problem, he continued to assert that her refusal to remove it was abusive and controlling. As she pressed him for answers, questioning whether he was cheating or using the lockbox as an excuse to stay out late, his anger flared. This confrontation led to a lengthy screaming match, during which he threw her MacBook against the wall, shattering it and intensifying her fear for her safety. Feeling threatened, she called her father, who promptly contacted the police. Following this incident, she decided to press charges for the destruction of property, as the laptop was worth $2,500. With the support of her dad and godfather, she moved out the next day, taking only her clothes and a few kitchen appliances. She left the lockbox behind but took her snacks with her, asserting her independence. After the breakup, her ex-boyfriend began to inundate her with messages. She felt the need to keep these messages as evidence in case his behavior escalated. In one message, she informed him that they were done, leading to a furious outburst from him, where he made bizarre claims about her owing him money for rent and other things. He also expressed shock and despair over their breakup, desperately claiming he still wanted to marry her and promising to buy her a better MacBook. Despite his emotional appeals and desperate pleas, her respect for him had completely vanished. She felt no sympathy for his apparent breakdown and decided to forward his erratic messages to his mother, believing it was her responsibility to deal with her son's issues now. In the aftermath, she focused on her own well-being. Although she felt a strange sense of detachment from the breakup, her parents supported her by providing comfort and encouraging her to seek therapy. With some savings in hand, She felt confident in her ability to handle the transition to a new living situation. She planned to begin searching for a therapist once she settled into her new home, determined to move forward and heal from the tumultuous relationship